All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Dudeplays here, and I'm back with some more YouTube reactions to you guys. So the Ben 10 game that I did on the channel like a month or two back, the game that was in development. This is his channel, Haez. He's a developer. I got kicked from the Discord like twice for advertising my game that I'm working on. I'm working on a Ben 10 game also, but it's 2D instead of 3D. I'll preview that at some point on the channel, but yeah. So he added 20 new abilities to his Ben 10 fan game. Galvan, that's the code name of the game. I don't know if it's gonna stay that later in development, but yeah, let's see what he added.
There were barely any, so I added over 20 new abilities to my Ben 10 fan game. Hey everyone,
Yes.
thank you so much for all the support on the last devlog. I've been busy working on new stuff for the update.
That's hella views though.
But I finally have time to show a small part of it today. Last devlog, there were lots of suggestions for awesome abilities from you guys, which made me realize there was barely any in the game, so I got to work. These new abilities fall into one of three categories: traversal, combat, or utility. Let's start with all the traversal abilities first.
Nice.
Starting with the most requested ability, web swinging for Spider Monkey, or in Wildvine's case, vine swinging.
The animation for it is so good
Vine
too.
swinging has
Wow.
two types, environmental and sky swinging. If the player is near a surface, it will try to find the best point to swing from. If not, then it will use a swing point out of view. This is mostly inspired by Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, which also had sky swinging.
Yeah,
and it was
definitely.
pretty fun. With there being so many aliens to cover, I didn't go.
Let me just say I played that game to death on PS3. I wanted Ben 10 Vilgax Attacks, which by then was an old game. I believe I got it for like my 14th birthday. I'm 24 now, so that was a decade ago. But I played that to death. And I found out later that I had PlayStation 3. Vilgax Attacks was on PlayStation 2 and PSP, so I actually had two advanced hardware to play the game because they didn't make a PS3 version of the game. So I ended up getting Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, and it was pretty good. And I have it on my Steam Deck now. I don't need to show it. I've shown it on camera many times. I'm rambling now.
Complexity of the swinging yet?
I'm emulating the
But there's
PS3
always
version on
room to
my
improve
Steam
in the
Deck.
future. But for now, it's pretty fun to use.
Bro, the way Wildvine's hands just like swung and stretched because he's a plant, so it has that biological plant fluidity to it. Looks so good. And this is obviously still in testing. You can see the
swinging, I
cube
also
map.
made a web zip, which if you're aiming, you can use to.
The what do they call it? White boxing. When you're developing a game and you have like the environment, it's the proper term for it. White boxing. So in game development, it's prototype using basic shapes to test level design before adding final art. Yeah, so that's what it is. White boxing. That's the proper term for it. And we can see it right here with the shapes.
Precisely move yourself in any direction you're pointing. This doesn't require you to be around any buildings, you simply just get launched in the air. This is pretty useful for creating traversal combos with your web swinging and other abilities I'll talk about soon.
This looks
Continuing
pretty
with
good.
abilities inspired by Spider-Man, I added wall running. Spider Monkey is the primary alien for this ability, but there's a few other aliens that have it as well. One of them,
I'm guessing Wildmutt. Wildvine, no, not Wildvine. Wildmutt. Grey Mutt can wall climb as well. Right, why didn't I think of him? And he's like one of my favorites.
On the wall, stop and stay in place. Accelerate must always be moving and sprinting in order to stay on the wall, or else it will detach. As Spider Monkey, you can also jump from the walls either manually by pressing the jump button, or automatically once you reach an edge. Moving on to this next ability, which is fairly simple, but I added diving for characters that quickly reach extreme heights. Specifically Spider Monkey with web swinging and zipping, this will let you get back to the ground quickly. Moving on, we now have speed boosting. This ability's been added to most of the flying aliens, and of course, the speedsters, like Accelerate, Fast Track,
especially Jetray.
It basically gives a
for
short
flight,
burst
that
of
is.
speed, which is tied into each of those aliens' stamina. For some of the aliens, it's just a buff, but for Accelerate, it needs to be balanced with an additional ability I'll speak about later. The stamina system...
I'm guessing the slow time, which is already in the current build. I showed it in the last video.
To display how much stamina you have. Each alien basically has the same stamina bar, but just comes in different colors to match their aesthetic. And the last traversal ability is
Mm.
teleportation. This was specifically made for Alien X's kit, allowing him to move anywhere you're pointing.
Who else I know would have that ability? Teleportation. Yeah, he'd be the only alien. Yeah, he's the only
Instantly.
teleportation alien.
And that's all for the traversal abilities. We're already at over a quarter of the way for the abilities. Let's move on to the combat abilities, which are pretty epic. First up, Heat Blast now has a fire beam, which burns anything you hit with it, including
Ooh.
enemies that get set on fire. Additionally, not a new ability, but his fireballs got a quality of life update. To make these feel a lot smoother, I made it so Heat Blast will look in the direction of the nearest enemy in range when hip throwing, but of course you can still throw them precisely
Nice.
with aiming. Moving on, Buzz Shock, Amphibian.
What I would like for the lock-on is if it does like an outline around them, like a red outline, because you know red usually signifies danger. So green outlines for civilians and red outlines for enemies when you're locking on, that is. And you're probably thinking, why would you lock on to civilians? Well, probably there'll be rescue missions, I'm sure. So you can lock on and grab them.
Shock Squatch now have their own version of an electricity beam. Each beam, of course, is inspired by the respected alien, matching the
And the
colors
effects are really
and vibe
pretty.
with different VFX and sound effects. This shocks enemies and damages them on contact. Apart from using them against enemies, they'll be useful in future gameplay scenarios that involve electricity. Next up is Upgrade.
Mechanics,
I wanted
puzzles,
to
that
remaster
type
his
of thing.
animations to be more stretchy and start adding his hand more.
This is something I've been thinking about with my game. I'm gonna have to get the graphics tablet to draw and animate all of the characters, particularly the fluid ones like Wildvine, Upgrade, Goop. Those three are gonna be a pain in the ass to animate.
But when I tried to animate these extreme poses, it didn't go very well. So I had to animate these extreme.
Even Destroy All Aliens, they look like they had a bit of
didn't go
trouble
very
doing it
well.
themselves. Look. It didn't like flow, it kind of just like depressed down. It's really hard to animate.
So I had to remake Upgrade's model to support the stretching. I tried to keep the general vibe and style of the previous model by modeling over it with new UV maps, which allows me to make new textures. And finally, a brand new rig. After that was the fun part. I got to making his new morph, the Blaster. I was heavily inspired by Malware's first appearance from Ben 10 Omniverse, where he used a blaster morph that was pretty badass. The blaster naturally shoots out energy blasts that explode on impact and deal pretty solid damage to enemies. The previous work I did for the stretchy rig,
Bro, and the effects from the blasts are so
handy
pretty.
for Upgrade's aim offset, or AO for short, which basically lets a character twist and lean their body in different directions, based on two values. Because of Upgrade's proportions, aiming straight down would normally make his hands clip through the ground, but with the stretchy rig, he can extend his torso enough to make room, which gives a bonus of making the aiming feel smooth. In addition to that, the stretchy rig came in handy again when I started animating his aim in. I wanted to give this action some flair, so instead of snapping,
And he needs to be able to stretch as well, like stretch grab characters. Like you could just like have him shoot his arm out, grab onto a character, and then merge his hand with him. Not necessarily his entire body, just merge his hand with the presumably a tech character, not like a actual
Directly
living
aim.
being. Like a Vilgax drone or some other robot enemy I can't think of from Ben 10 off the top of my head.
Motion. Moving on to Wildvine, he can now throw the pods from his back. These pods have a few different use cases in the show, but I decided to go with the basic explosive version for now. Basically working like grenades /C4. They explode the moment they hit something, but the player can also detonate all pods manually if they want to. Instead of using a UI element on screen to display how many pods are left, I was inspired by Dead Space to use physical/visual ammo on his body. So whenever you throw a pod, you can visually see them be taken out from his back. These of course
I think you should do both. Still put the UI, but that is
go
a really
back
great
after a
detail,
short
by the way.
cooldown whenever you throw a pod. To make throwing the pods feel
And I like the
smoother,
animation
I did a
for it,
simple but
growing
effective
back.
system that adjusts the throw speed based on how far away the nearest target is, so the pods avoid overshooting them. Even though we're on combat abilities, Wildfire does have some new traversal abilities.
I really like his attention to detail. You heard that? He has a system where depending on how far the opponent is, I don't know, I'm just saying over what he just said. I'm not saying anything new, but I'm just really thinking about the quality of life, And it's just him working on it. Imagine if he had other people. But then the issue with having other people is they want to do things another way. And then it's like a whole conflict. But it's like, it's way more workload, but it's like you're not rushing. You have, you use your spare time. It's going to take years, so you're committing to that. The time is gonna pass anyway. You're probably not gonna do anything significant with your life if you don't pursue this grind. So that's how I look at it, and that's how it is.
And vine zipping. His swinging works exactly the same as Spider Monkey's, except he uses his arms to swing.
I love that how stretchy that is.
Which I achieved by stretching his limbs to the desired swing point, on top of his existing swinging animations, which got a pretty much perfect look. Lastly, his vine zip acts like a quick dash, flinging himself in the direction he's moving. Moving on, next we have Accelerate. I gave him speed punches for an alternate method of attack, like SMGs in most FPS games. This ability deals less damage, but of course the speed the damage is dealt at is significantly faster. This ability uses up Accelerate stamina, which like I mentioned earlier, becomes important when balancing with your speed boost. And lastly for Accelerate, he now has an ultimate ability.
I hope we can tornado. Yeah, we know it's that. But one thing I should say though, I would love to see it be a scenario where you can train with the aliens and level up and get more stamina so you can do more powerful attacks for longer. I like the idea of grinding and earning things in game. It really does have its own sense of reward. A high-speed
tornado. While active, the tornado deals continuous AoE damage and is only active for a limited
time. Wow, I wasn't
before
expecting it to be
having
that massive.
To use it again. Speaking of ultimate abilities, next is Heat Blast.
Okay, so I'm guessing does he have a fire tornado? Supernova. It's supernova, like what we're seeing here in this frame.
He now has a supernova. You can't move after you trigger it.
There it
timing
is.
And positioning is super important. But if you land it, it deals heavy AoE damage, instantly vaporizing weak enemies and burning tougher ones. Moving on to Stinkfly, his ultimate ability is a poison cloud that lingers around in the area for a limited time, dealing AoE damage to enemies that are unfortunate enough to have the ability to smell. In addition to his ultimate ability, he now has the ability to spit his goop or gunk or whatever it is. This deals damage upon impact, but also splats on the surface it impacted. While a splat on a surface, it passively slows down anything that touches it. If an enemy is hit by this goop, it will slowly build up each time it hits them until they are completely stuck in place and cannot move, making them vulnerable to attacks. Moving on back to the ultimate
That's
attacks,
crazy.
Forearms previously had an input called Super Strength, with no real benefit, but now it does. All his stats are now overcharged, he's faster.
Also, I don't know if you did this time around, probably not, but it would be nice to have the ability to grab as him. But all in due time. He's putting in work on his own
adds
too.
Some visual difference while the ability is active, his veins and the screen glow red, with an intense thumping sound and muffled game audio. In addition to his super strength, he now has his iconic rock throw, which of course was inspired by Protector of Earth. This ability also uses the same distance matching Wildvine has for his pods. And also a small detail I added, the rock visually adapts to the environment, pulling out different variations based on where you rip the rock out of. Some include rock, sand, grass, and rooftops, which have some wiring and different junk poking out of it. And those are all the ultimate abilities, so circling back to Spider Monkey, he can now shoot web projectiles from his tail. This serves as a mid-range attack and a way to stun enemies to get in extra damage. If an enemy is hit with enough webs, they'll be completely wrapped up and vulnerable to your attacks. Especially his new web.
I'm guessing they can break out.
Inspired by the same move in Spider-Man Web of Shadows, this is a gap closer to quickly land a heavy attack on an enemy, which can be triggered from anywhere as long as you're in the vicinity of the enemy.
You know, I low-key like the translucent bars. It kind of has like a cinematic vibe to it.
I wanted the web strike to feel powerful, so I added a hit stop and of course a camera shake to sell the impact. And lastly, for the combat abilities, Wildmud has a pounce attack. This ability
Nothing
lets
for Rip
Wildmud
Jaws.
leap across long distances, far beyond his normal attack range,
Or Ghost
and
Freak.
slamming right into enemies. While leaping, I wanted the player to feel the intensity, so the camera dynamically zooms out with of course some good old camera shake.
Oh, you know, it would be cool to having an option to like disable his Wildmut vision, his Vulpimancer vision, I should say. That's the proper species name. It's like we see how he sees in the show. But if it's too much for you gameplay wise, you could toggle
Make
it
sure the
off. I
player
think that
always
would be
gets a
cool.
perfect arc when leaping. I used a spline, which basically uses a set of points to create a smooth curve. I generate this spline using the player and enemy's current position, and then of course move the player along the spline. Additionally, as many of y'all have requested, he now has his thermal vision to let him detect and see enemies through walls. This ability is also extended over to Ghost
Okay,
Streak
there it
with more
is. Well,
ghost-like
somewhat.
visuals.
Also, he needs a remodel. I'm not really rocking
And
with
that's
the
all the
body
combat
type for Ghost
abilities.
Freak.
We're already at 20 abilities, but let's go over a few of the new utility abilities.
Utility.
Accelerate previously had a flash time mechanic where he would run at normal speed, but everything else around him was slowed down. I switched this out for a focus or slow motion mechanic, so now he is slowed down alongside everything else. This will allow you to make turns
To maneuver properly without crashing into stuff. That's really important, I've noticed. Because even in GTA, when I've installed like the flash mod and I could run super fast, and there is an option to toggle it, I just chose not to. When you're running fast, it's like you can have everything around you slow down, but it's like you're so fast that you lose control. You can't. I crash into cars and blow them up. That's what happens. I'm trying to run and not hit anything. I want perfect running control, and this. It makes sense why he did
easier
that.
when going at higher speeds. Next, something small, but there's now health regeneration, which, as the name implies, regenerates your health, specifically a small time after you were last damaged. And lastly, I remembered from the live-action Alien Force movie where Nanomech premiered, he was able to shrink far smaller than his original size, so I went ahead and implemented this in the game. Nanomech can now become significantly smaller, which will definitely help getting into small gaps or areas no one else can. The VFX for altering your size was inspired by Ant-Man. And that's everything. I hope y'all enjoyed the devlog. Make sure to like if you liked the video and subscribe if
Man, whenever I see him, I think of how I need to get on my game, man. I need to lock in on mine. All right, guys. I don't even feel like reading the comments. I already did, but man, he's going crazy. 344. Is that Heat Blast? Oh, upgrade. Yeah, upgrade is definitely S tier. All right, guys. That was it. See y'all in the next one. Goodbye.